Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Stewart, I want to congratulate you on being the only person on the list where we don't have to have an answer key for how to pronounce names. It is Mr. Schweitzer, Mr. Chirillo, and Mr. Tyre. Thank you. Congratulations, Mr. Schweitzer, to your nomination, and to Ethan, Charlie, and Finnegan, who I think are in the audience. You should be proud. You're going to get the first question. I intend to support all your nominations, and I probably won't have time to get to all of you. Mr. Schweitzer, I'm the chair of the Intellectual Property Subcommittee and Judiciary. I've been spending a lot of time there, and I spend particularly a significant amount of my time on the theft from China. I mean, we can legitimately say that China is an innovator, but a lot of the foundation for all that innovation is just blatant theft from U.S. intellectual property. I'll give you a good example. In fact, I've got a bill that I'd like to talk with you maybe after you get over there. It's called Fighting Tax Cheat or Trade Cheats. We got to figure out a way to get a force multiplier from private sector to go after the hundreds of incidences that we just do not have for customs. We don't have the capacity to do it. So I'd like to talk about that bill. But I want to start by the president made a comment the other day on his talk on AI that I found concerning, because he said that the intellectual property copyright infringements were just too complicated to be dealt with in the implementation of AI, and it would have to be settled by the courts. The challenge that I have with that is that would be great news for China. Now we're going to flood the zone not only with their rampant theft of IP, but maybe an administration posture says it's just too complicated to get it done on the front end, and therefore maybe we should just wait and get it done on the back end. That is not a way to keep our competitive edge. And what do you think about that? In negotiating a trade agreement with China, what advice would you give to people on the front line saying, how do we get them right and hold them accountable for most of their economic miracle being founded on the theft of U.S. innovation?
Thank you, Senator. Very important question. And I've spent literally my entire adult life living in, working on these issues on China. I speak Chinese. I have helped companies solve these problems directly. It's very complicated in some aspects, but it's less complicated than it needs to be. And I think the president has really shown the kind of leadership that's required. You have to take these problems on head on. You can't attack them one at a time, as you've discussed. And I mentioned earlier that, while at the embassy, I've seen companies who would come to us and say, they had intellectual property stolen. We would say, great, we need to make a case of this. And they would say, oh, please don't mention our name. Because they knew they were stuck in a prisoner's dilemma, as I'm sure you're aware, Senator.
100%.
And that prisoner's dilemma problem requires that only the U.S. government can step in. While we want to partner with private sector, it requires deep leadership on behalf of the U.S. government who says these practices will no longer be tolerated, full stop.
We've got to put the pedal, and to a certain extent in the pharmaceutical space, we've also got to hold India accountable. One of the reasons why we have upward pressure on prices is because we're being undermined by counterfeit drugs coming across the border and pretending, number one, they do not stand up to the same safety standards. Number two, they're undermining the intellectual property protections of, generally speaking, U.S. biotech. I'll have other questions for the record, but I appreciate it. Look forward to supporting your nomination. Mr. Tyre, I come in on the back end of the discussion with Senator Grassley on congressional intent. When we're around here, sometimes you pass a bill, it's 30, 40 years done, and people are wondering what Congress intended. We only passed a big, beautiful bill about 4 weeks ago. So people who voted on that bill are here, and there was very clear congressional intent with respect to the transition strategy on some of the renewable energy projects. To be honest with you, I'm not surprised. In full disclosure, I voted against the bill for reasons other than the renewable energy. But it already looks like we're kind of moving away from congressional intent, particularly from the Senate, and something that was more baked into a predisposition from the Freedom Caucus in the House. Can I get your commitment to make sure that when there's any doubt about congressional intent on the energy provisions of the big, beautiful bill, that you actually consult with those of us who were dealt with the drafting of it?
Thank you, Senator. And there is a cadre of very skilled, expert, impressive technical and appointee staff in the Office of Tax Policy. They have the mandate of implementing the One Big Beautiful Bill. And if confirmed, look forward to working with you and your team on that.
Well, there's a few
implementation.
things that seem to be popping up that run afoul of, there were some people that may have voted against it if they thought that they were going to be having discussions about congressional intent 4 weeks later. So I hope we can avoid having that sort of erosion of trust as we go and implement it and do it in good faith. Thank you. I look forward to supporting all your nominations.